Hi, everyone. Larry Bailey here, Mortgage Workflow Partners. We're bringing you this week's episode pre recorded. Unfortunately, I couldn't make the live event. We do these live events every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern. This week's Tuesday meeting, unfortunately, I got stuck in the voting line. I should have voted early. Lesson learned. Today's topic is all about workflow before technology and why automation is not your first key to success, which is such a weird way to say it, right? When you think about automating your workflow, you think that you're going to be finding ways to turn things that people do into magic, where you can just outsource what the human is doing into what software can do, because software can do a lot of really cool stuff, especially in the mortgage industry. This whole concept of getting to a digital mortgage has been something in the works now for decades. And personally speaking, it's going to continue to take decades to really get us there. In the meantime, we still have jobs to do. And so, what today's event is all about, what I'm going to walk through are the top 10 things that I find. I'm going to be explaining to you exactly what each of them means and does, and why it's important to follow these sequence and steps to make sure you get the most efficient workflow, and how you spot ways to leverage automation throughout your workflow. And again, why it's not your first key to success, but it's definitely part of the success. So before we get going, I really want to talk about what is workflow automation. So quick Google search. Right below, we'll see Search Labs. So this is all generated from basically Google's Chat GPT. Workflow automation is the use of software to automate tasks and processes in business, reducing the need for manual intervention. It can help businesses improve efficiency, and it can also increase productivity, improve collaboration, those kinds of things, optimize resource for usage, these things. And that all sounds fine and well. And so what are some ideas, right? And so if this is where the community comes in. I would say, hey, everybody, name me some things that you're using, that you purchased, that are automation. And I would have expected on the chat, which would have done this. So I'm asking you, the viewer, what have you actually purchased, whether it was free, and free is a casual term here because nothing is ever free. But what have you purchased for your workflow that it was supposed to automate it? Here's what typically gets answered. There's like automated disclosures, and there's automated things that print, and automated emails, and automated movements within Encompass that go from your input form, and software will automatically print and put something in your e-folder, maybe add some automated notes, and all of these things. Automated USPS, automated home counselor. And these are all unique spots within the workflow that somebody used to have to click a button, right? The reality, though, is the reason why that technology was created was because somebody decided before now that, hey, it would be really cool if I didn't always have to click this button, right? That's the reality. It would be really cool if I didn't have to open up my email and type this thing out, and it can just happen automatically. So it feels very close to being the first key to your success. Like, let's just buy all these plugins. Let's just buy all this technology. And so what happens typically, and I know this firsthand, naturally, because of my resume, because of where I've worked in the past, it feels very easy to just go buy something off the shelf, plug it into your Encompass, and feel like you've made some accomplishments. Obviously, if your Encompass is not quick right now, or not as quick as you had hoped, we know that third-party technology is slowing it down. And the exchange in that, of course, is your time. So again, even if you've got some of these free plugins, these free automations that are out there, what you're paying with is your time. One of the things that I talk to a lot of companies right now, when they get into Encompass Web, they're like, oh my gosh, it's so fast. Look how quick it is. And I say, guys, quick fun fact, if you unwound all of your plugin automations, all those third-party plugins that you bought for your Encompass desktop, I got some news for you. Your Encompass is going to be fast. How do I know that? I know that because I have an Encompass that has no plugins. I have clients that actually have limited to 0 plugins, and their Encompass is as snappy as ever. Now, what did they trade off in that? Well, this is where it gets back to today's topic. Today's topic is all about workflow before technology. And what's really interesting is, most recently, as an example, we've had companies leave their large, branches, have left their corporations and started up their own companies, and we help with that transition into their own Encompass Banker Edition and help them get approved with GSEs and those kinds of things. And when we build those out, we will always recommend no plugins. Let's go through and make sure you've got your workflow nailed first. That gets into the number one out of top 10 here. Is number one is you have to know what you're doing first. Now, if you're as old as me, I started lending in 93. We started with paper files. I've got the paper cuts and manila folder cuts and ACO clip cuts to prove it. I've got scars. I know I do. And if you do too, then you understand that it's always workflow before technology, always, because where that paper file went was everything. Who was it with? When did it get there? What did the log say? There was a very specific workflow in terms of how things happened. So if you're not sure about what's actually happening, don't feel weird. It's actually very normal. With Mortgage Workflow Partners, one of the things that we do is workflow reviews where we actually do exactly what I'm going to tell you, so you can do this on your own. If you find that you're not able to, or you're not getting the kind of results you're looking for, give me a call and we'll set up even a single department complimentary review for you, where we'll go in and do what I'm going to explain here. So in order to know what's going on, you've got to take these steps. And you need to know what's going on first so that you can get to the part where you can actually automate and feel good about the results and really improve your company and improve your team members' professional lives and professional experience and goals that everybody has. Number two, you need to interview your team to know what's actually happening. Now, it's hard to do an interview with somebody that you work with all the time because you'll say to them like, "Hey, Johnny, what do you do all day?" And you'll both kind of laugh and you'll chuckle and you'll be like, and they'll be like, "Larry, you know what I do? Like, you watch me." And this is where it gets a little bit tough if you're close professionally or even personally to the person that you're interviewing. It's a very, very hard skill set. So what I would recommend that you do is, if you can't find somebody internally, give us a call. We'll do what I'm explaining. And we actually document step by step what actually happens from the first time that team member knows about a loan file to the last time they need to do something on that loan file. These are the bookends. And the bookends are important because it explains what they physically do. I don't care about how they do it. That's a training opportunity. What I care is what they're doing. This is when you'll discover that they're using all kinds of tools outside of what you thought they were doing, whether they're spreadsheets, whether they're online free sites to organize their day because they don't know how to use pipeline views or dashboards, or they're manually doing things in Outlook like organizing emails, or they are setting up reminders in their calendar that only they can see, even though it's information everybody needs to see. This is why you interview. Number three, you need to actually write out so you can visualize, and everybody can visualize what is actually happening. What's amazing to me is the light bulbs that go off when we go through our workflow reviews. We produce two kinds of documents. One is a written document where it lists what we found, what we recommend you should change, and what the expected result of that change should be. That's part one. Part two is a visual workflow swim lane chart of showing the bubbles and the arrows and the squares and the triangles and all that other stuff, where you can find on either Visio or Lucidchart, and you actually can see the workflow. When you have either one of these on their own, they can be impactful, but when you put them together, it's like magic, because all of a sudden, the thing that we're talking about, you can visualize in the workflow and you go, whoa, why are we doing that? Let's figure out a way to get away from that. So this is where words are okay, but pictures are 1,000 words, right? So number four is, it's okay to do a workflow review. There's a lot of health checks that are out there. You might have even had one done from any number of companies, including ICE Mortgage Technology, and all these companies do great work. But Mortgage Workflow Partners takes it up a notch, and you should do it. If you can do this internally, do it. If you need any support, we're here to help you. But basically, we take that review, that workflow review, where we interview and then document your workflow. And the documentation of that workflow is both in words, but also in pictures, because we know how that works. So at the end of the day, when you put that together, it gives you the insights for what we're going to go over next. Number 5 out of this workflow before technology is an edict, is a call to action. You've got to stop the emails. Now, if you're like most companies, you just gave me an eye roll and you're like, Larry, we can't stop the emails. We live on email. I get it. Matter of fact, I've actually studied this. And if you're a manager who is listening to this and you want to know how you can study it in your own system, let me know. Give me a direct message. Give me a ring, and I'll explain to you how to do it. Every company I've studied spends 40 to 50% of their time looking at their inbox, whether it's Outlook or Google, doesn't matter. It's your inbox. And the reason why they're there is because of all the email chatter that's going on between your companies about your loan files that are in Encompass. And so part of this challenge is to stop the emails. You have to know your workflow first. You have to know why those emails exist, but you've got to stop these emails. And when you backtrack why the email was created in the first place, I guarantee it's because that is the most effective way in your workflow for people to know what's going on. And that's part of the problem. It's really part of the problem. Number 6, you've got to be able to figure out how to stop the extra notes in files where they don't belong. These extra notes, don't think about I'm telling, the other team member what's going on. These extra notes are typically for the person who's making the notes. It's either a CYA situation, where I've even seen people take entire emails and paste them into a note section because they want to CYA the file for what somebody said. Or these are just, a lot of times we see this in both processing as well as mostly in underwriting. What we find is underwriters will go through and they'll make a series of handwritten notes. They'll keep a log. I've even seen processors keep an entire 3-ring hole punched workbook on their desk of files because that's for them. That's most efficient for them. And this is part of the problem. How do you automate that? You can't. You have to change the workflow so they no longer need to make those extra notes. So they no longer need that 3-ring hole punch binder. So they no longer need those extra spreadsheets. These are where these extra notes are. I'm telling you right now, it's throughout your entire workflow, and it's not easy to fix, but if you follow these steps, it can be done. And this is what we work on every week with all of our clients, is making everybody more efficient with studying workflows and making these workflow changes. Number 7 is to work by exception. So when you work by exception, what you're not doing is doing all the work all the time. So some good examples of this is in workflow. And again, for those that use Encompass templates, those kinds of things, you'll kind of get this right off the bat. But if I work on a file that's FHA as an example, in an FHA loan, I know exactly what basic data needs to be in that FHA loan file. I know what documents I need in the E folder. I know what conditions should be there. I know what kind of workflow tasks should be there. These are all things that are considered to be automations. But those are the 4 things that if you're using this methodology, you've got to be able to know what you need. And it's got to be specific to that loan, in this case, just a general FHA loan. But what if it's an FHA 203K? Well, now it's different. That's a good example of it's not just an FHA, there's another layer. So when we get into this working by exception, what we're really talking about is what are the things that we actually need people to do? That's the exception. Because again, the rule that we're trying to get to is automation, right? But when you think about this, you have to understand your workflow first, and you have to go through and understand what is actually happening in the workflow that we really do need a person to do, a team member to do. So those are the examples that typically come up. You can spot them. What if you need a credit supplement? What if you need a flood cert that has to have some manual review? You name it. What if there's something on title that needs to be managed? All of these things are exceptions. So think about that. Next one is to spot opportunities for automation. And so as you're going through your business, what I don't want you to hyper focus on is, oh, well, I can automate this one little tiny widget because there's a plugin for that, right? Or there's a setting for that. And just in that one little bubble, I can fix that part. Yeah, you probably can. But the reality is that one little widget that you're using in that one specific spot will almost always have a butterfly effect, both up, down, and sideways within your workflow. And you need to understand what that does and what that means. So when you understand what that does and what that means, it's going to help you understand how to truly look at your workflow as an entire structure and where those automations can be. So maybe there is a need for an email at this spot. Doesn't mean that it can't be automated. Whether you're using Scheduler and Encompass Web to automatically send those notifications out, or you're doing something else such as workflow tasks instead of an email to remind somebody to do something, create a workflow task. These are spots for automation, automating your services being ordered, what to do when the service succeeds or fails, all of these kinds of things I want you to keep thinking about when we're looking at this conversation about workflow before technology. Number 9. So you've done all this work, and this is an enormous amount of work, by the way. This is not something that can be done overnight, within a week, or within a month. This is months-long project stuff, because if you think about it, if you've been using Encompass, even if it's been a very long time, when was the last time you actually looked at your whole workflow? When was the last time you did a whole workflow review? Now, again, you might have had a health check, right? Where somebody came in and looked at your Encompass settings and gave you some general feedback. But chances are you've never actually done, at least recently, a comprehensive workflow review. Now, I know of companies that do this kind of work periodically, and to them, 2 thumbs up. Like, you're a shining star, you're one in a million. And by the way, those companies are the ones that are the most successful because they understand that it's about creating a system. And as opportunities for automation come to market, they're able to snap them up, put them in, and take care of one more thing that they used to have to do in a non-automated way. And now they can work on fewer and fewer exceptions in their workflow. So that brings me right into number 9, which is you have to constantly review and revise. So when you're looking at your workflow, it's not stagnant. We know this. In lending, we know this, right? We went from having thermal fax machines to paper fax machines. We went from typewriter to software. We went from software iteration 1 to software iteration today. And throughout all of these changes, we are always reviewing and revising. Do we need this? The most recent one, of course, is like artificial intelligence, AI. What does it mean? How does it impact our workflow? What can it do? What can it do with document imaging? What can it do with data processing? All of these great things that might be impactful for some large scale companies. For the rest of us, we actually can make a huge impact by simply going through these steps and constantly reviewing and revising our workflow based upon what's possible. We know that in just a few weeks, ICE Mortgage Technology is going to give every Encompass platform a major update, this one to 24.3. And there's dozens of pages of updates to the desktop experience. There's even more updates to the web experience. And you need to make sure that you're up to speed with all of this. And that's why it's always important to understand your workflow so that as you read a release note and you see a change coming, you can go ahead and take advantage of that right away. Number 10, big one, you have to never stop looking for ways to improve. Now, that is different from constantly reviewing and revising. And you might say, well, why is it different or how is it different? The reason why it's different is because when you're always looking for ways to improve, it'll lead back into reviewing your workflow and revising your workflow. It's one of those things where if you're with someone, if this is you, kudos. But if you're with someone that's always noticing things and they seem like they're always ahead, like they're always figuring stuff out, those are the people that are always looking for ways to improve, whether it's to themselves or their profession or their company or their friends and family, etc. They're not doing anything quote unquote special. They're just actively engaged in the act of looking. And so if you're that kind of person, kudos. If you've got somebody in your company that has that personality where they're always looking for ways to improve, elevate their resources, elevate their ability to engage with outside resources. For those that are going to the ICE experience in March of 2025, the reason why you're going, or at least the reason why you should be going, is looking for ways to improve. Now, there's going to be some people that are there just for the party, and that's fine. But truthfully, it's one of the conferences that I've always found people are genuinely there to learn what everybody else is doing. So that's great. And it's one of the reasons why I've constantly created communities. It's one of the reasons why we have this mortgage community. And I just wanted to let you know that as a member of the community, I can't thank you enough. We actually have community pins that we're going to be giving out at the shows. So definitely stop by our booth. We're going to have Mortgage Workflow Partners will have a booth at the ICE experience. It'll be a kiosk inside the hall. We'll give you more information as that comes along. But we're going to be making some very special announcements between now and then to even build in more value for you. Not only with regards to what we're talking about here in terms of helping workflow and helping you understand things, but also training opportunities, coaching opportunities, free courses, everything that we can do to help you truly master Encompass. We're going to be adding more and more information that's going to put a lot of this information directly in your hands in ways that you haven't had access to before. So we can't wait for that. And we can't wait for you to really tell us how today's topic of making sure that you understand that automation is great, but workflow always comes before technology. And the first keys of your success are going through these 10 steps to understand what's happening in your day and what's happening in your company and what you can do about it. And if there's anything ever that we can do to help you out with this process, just please reach out and we'll take care of you. That's all I have for today. Please let me know if you have any feedback or questions in the comments. Community, thank you very much as always for being the best part and motivating me to always keep doing these and getting this information to you. You guys have a great rest of your day. Take care.